Change, in the geological record, rarely announces itself cleanly. It accumulates in layers, a degree of warming here, a shift in sea level there, a forest retreating upslope as the rainfall patterns shift, until suddenly the cumulative weight of small changes becomes undeniable, and what had seemed like a stable world reveals itself to have been balanced on a threshold all along. The transition is invisible from inside it. Only the rock remembers. The Late Cretaceous, for much of its duration, was a remarkable period. Global temperatures were several degrees warmer than today. There were no polar ice caps, the poles were forested and seasonally warm, their Cretaceous plant communities more diverse than anything that grows there now. Sea levels were extraordinarily high, and shallow inland seas divided land masses in ways that promoted the evolution of distinct regional faunas on what amounted to island continents. It was, in many respects, a world at the peak of its Mesozoic complexity, diverse, productive, and rich with life in every habitat from the deep ocean floor to the upland forests. But beneath that richness, tensions were accumulating. The most significant of these was geological. The Deccan Traps, a volcanic system in what is now western India, began producing some of the largest flood basalt eruptions in Earth's history, accelerating dramatically in the final 2 million years of the Cretaceous. Lava poured across the subcontinent in pulses, building up layer upon layer of basaltic rock that, measured today, covers an area of roughly 500,000 square kilometers and reaches depths of 2 kilometers in places. Each pulse released carbon dioxide and sulfur compounds into the atmosphere in quantities sufficient to measurably shift global climate patterns. Pollen records from late Cretaceous sediments show plant community shifts, forest types retreating, fern prairies expanding into disturbed zones, the composition of vegetation changing faster than it had in millions of years. The world became less stable. Seasons became more extreme. Ecosystems that had evolved under relatively consistent conditions began to experience a kind of geological turbulence that the land itself was restless, and the animals living on it were adapting to a world that kept altering the terms of survival beneath their feet. And yet the dinosaurs themselves, most of them, were not in obvious decline. They were, in fact, at some of their most extraordinary. This was the age of Tyrannosaurus rex. No animal in the history of life on land has approached quite the same combination of size and sensory capability. Adult T. rex reached 13 meters in length and may have exceeded 8 metric tons in body mass, making it one of the largest terrestrial predators in Earth's history. But it was not simply big. Its skull, over 1.5 meters long, was an engineering marvel, robust enough to transmit bone-crushing bite forces estimated at up to 57,000 newtons, yet fenestrated with weight-saving openings that kept the head from becoming prohibitively heavy. Its teeth were not blades designed for slicing but thick, banana-shaped structures designed for penetrating bone and delivering devastating structural damage. Analysis of bite marks on Triceratops and Hadrosaur bones shows that T. rex bit through solid bone to access the marrow within, a behavior that required both extraordinary jaw strength and unusually robust teeth. Its senses were equally remarkable. The olfactory bulbs of T. rex, as reconstructed from endocranial casts, were proportionally enormous, suggesting a sense of smell comparable to that of a modern albatross, capable of detecting scent plumes over distances of many kilometers. Its forward-facing eyes, providing significant binocular overlap, gave it depth perception that far exceeded most other theropods, an adaptation useful not merely for hunting but for the precise judgment of distance required when moving a massive body at speed through complex terrain. Recent research has suggested that T. rex may have lived in loose social associations, not the solitary hunters of early popular depiction, but animals that tolerated each other at kill sites and possibly traveled in small family groups. A bone bed in Canada containing multiple tyrannosaur individuals of different ages, if confirmed as the result of a social death event, would imply parental behavior and group cohesion that makes Tyrannosaurus substantially more complex than the solitary monster of older imaginings. The juveniles were different animals almost entirely, fast, lightly built, with proportionally longer legs and better binocular vision, occupying a different predatory niche than the bone-crushing adults. T-Rex was not alone in its world. The Hell Creek Formation of North America, dating to the very last 2 million years of the Cretaceous, is a fossil record of extraordinary density and diversity. Triceratops horridus and its relative Torosaurus latus moved in herds across the floodplains, their elaborate frill and horn structures serving both display and defensive functions. There is at least one fossil Triceratops brow horn showing healed T-Rex tooth marks, evidence of a direct confrontation survived by the horned dinosaur. Edmontosaurus annectans gathered in vast migratory herds, their movements governed by seasonal patterns written into the landscape over millions of years. Ankylosaurus magniventris moved through the forests with the slow authority of a living tank, its tail club capable of delivering a blow that could shatter the leg bones of a tyrannosaur. In the floodplains and forests of Montana and Alberta, Cosmoceratops richardsoni, bearing an extraordinary 15 horn-like structures on its skull, negotiated its world with the social complexity that such elaborate display structures imply. Pachyrhinosaurus canadensis traveled in vast herds across the northern plains, their thick nasal bosses replacing the horns of southern relatives. Edmontonia rugosidens, a large nodosaur, moved through the undergrowth with its heavily armored body held low and its shoulder spines angled outward, a posture that made it almost impossible to attack from the sides. The hadrosaurs were at the peak of their diversity. Hypacrosaurus stibingeri nested colonially in enormous rookeries, its young hatching altricial and growing rapidly under parental supervision in a manner that has more in common with modern geese than with the solitary egg layers of popular imagination. In the vegetation at the forest floor, the first small mammals, shrew-like, nocturnal, their warm blood burning fast in their tiny bodies, scurried through the leaf litter, eating insects and seeds and the occasional dinosaur egg overlooked by its parents. They had been doing this for a very long time. They would, against all visible probability, keep doing it. But the margin for error was narrowing. And somewhere in the darkness of space, 66 million years in the past, an object the size of a small city was moving toward the inner solar system on a trajectory that had been fixed for millions of years. There was no way to know. There was no way to prepare. The world continued, as it always had, until it didn't.